Hello and welcome to a piece of advice. Today we're talking about deconstructing pessimism. So let's just get into it. Off the bat, let's just think of pessimism as seeing the worst in the situation. That's basically what it boils down to. You're anticipating the worst outcome. Now, the funny thing is, the mind intends to keep you safe all the time. It prepares you for every single outcome, and this is a good and bad thing because it can help you manage things in your work life and in your relationships, but it can also lead you to just hypothesize about every single negative possibility down the road, and then you're not even manifesting or attracting anything positive in your life. So I love my metaphors, and I love how metaphors can be a perfect bridge towards, improving yourself, and they can help simplify things, and they can just help you think of things in a better light. So the way I like to think about pessimism and deconstructing it is the Inside Out movie. If any of you have seen it, it's like a kid's movie, but if anyone who hasn't seen it, it's basically all the emotions inside someone's head, and they boil it down to joy, sadness, disgust, fear, and anger. They're the main ones. So the metaphor I like to use for pessimism, and whenever a pessimistic thought comes into your sphere, is the two characters, sadness and fear, in the Inside Out movie. I like those little kind of devil on the shoulder. Think of that when you're thinking of pessimism. These two little characters are sitting on your shoulder, and they're anticipating everything. They're anticipating every negative situation that could possibly, or negative outcome that could possibly happen in a situation. Overthinkers such as myself, we tend to hypothesize on every single negative outcome or possibility in a situation without ever contemplating on the positive outcomes or possibilities. And even constant positivity, I don't exactly agree in, because we're kind of just moving through the ocean. We're kind of going up and down, and sometimes we're drowning, and we really can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So we're working in a state of flow, whatever's feeling good. If you're drowning and you're near the bottom of the ocean, positivity isn't gonna get you out of that. Sometimes you just gotta sit there and let the waves crash over you, and let everything just kind of drown you out, and then you'll be able to float up to the surface. But constant positivity, in my opinion, isn't, the fix, isn't, the be all and end all, because we don't want to just rewire our thinking to just be positive, but we also don't want to just be negative. We want to take that negativity and let's move it into something else, or just manage it in a better way. Sometimes you're not in a place to think positively and manifest positively. Sometimes it really is best to dive in and face that anxiety head on. It's hard to know, and I think intuitively we all know, but we are influenced by other factors around us. And sometimes when it comes to pessimism, you need to deconstruct it. And so I've got a little guide on, how I deconstruct my pessimism whenever it comes through. Now, to kind of take you through the process, I'm going to have an overriding, or an example of a pessimistic thought. And this is something I've had recently. I work at a pub, and everyone's got duties to do. Everyone's got to do this, everyone's got to do that. People like this, people like that. And a thought that comes through, and I would say it's a pessimistic thought, is that, this person won't like me like a coworker, or even someone that I'm serving. This person won't like me if I do this, and or do or don't do this. And like, it might be, oh, I don't take out the bins, or I don't help them with their transaction as they're pouring the beer. Or when it comes to a customer, oh, they won't like me, or they'll have a bad experience if I don't do this, or if I don't do that. So that's, I guess, the overrun example I'll use. And I guess the three main steps I look to when deconstructing a pessimistic thought. And I guess before I get into it, it's not something that I do all the time with every single thought that comes through. I would go mad if that happened. Because as I'll state in, I guess, a future piece of advice, is that you can be the passenger, you can observe as thoughts come by, you don't need to manage every single one of them. But certain ones are more potent than others, they're more, they're more strong, and we need to sometimes, grab them and be like, okay, why are you like this, or what are you doing to me? And make something better out of it. So I guess the 3 steps that I'll use is: number 1, source; number 2, the rationality or a rational measure; and number 3, action. So number 1, with the source, ask yourself, why has this pessimism come about? What events had led to its inception, and what events have preceded its inception, I would say. Think of your behaviors leading up to it and preceding the pessimistic thought. Something that I'll touch on in more detail in another piece of advice is that we are outside-in beings. We look externally for answers and stimulation and for resolve of problems. We need to shift towards an inside-out approach, and that's a perfect reference to the movie of the metaphor that I use of Inside Out. But we need to work on improving the systems in our body individually, because from then you will see the world in a better light. Things that made you anxious before don't have that effect as much anymore, because your body is in a better place to anticipate them and then relay any information to your mind. Your body and mind become, I guess, more coherent. They work together in a better way. So I guess with this in mind, evaluate your patterns leading up to this pessimistic thought, because as strong as it is, you'll start to pick apart your actions before, or any events before, and realize, oh, okay, well, that definitely contributed to it. So I guess ask yourself, how was my hydration leading up to this very negative, pessimistic thought? How's my food consumption? Exercise patterns? Was I reaching social quotas? Any spiritual or like purpose quotas? Have I been really feeling my purpose recently? There's so much, and I will touch on more, I guess, examples of how we can work on ourselves, or how we can work on the 6 systems in our body. But ask yourself and evaluate the patterns leading up to the negative or pessimistic thought. And so we can really, I don't want you to critically evaluate it in the sense that you want to control every single action to be a positive thing, but you can rest assured being like, okay, well, I felt like this because of this happened. Okay, that makes sense. It's all good. We think, I guess we are, and again, I'll reference this in the future one, but we think we are always have to be the captain of our own ship. We don't always have to be. Don't have to manage every single thing. But we can work on our behaviors and the patterns and the habits that we are running, because these help us see the world in a more beautiful light. Moving on to step 2, we ask ourselves, we do a rational measure. We ask ourselves, is it rational? Is this pessimism rational? Does it even make sense in the grand scheme of things, or is it just plain silly? A way to, I guess, determine this is to ask yourself, like, will you still be alive and still be able to function as a human being in 5 years if this works out how your pessimism is believing it's going to work out? even 1 year, even a couple of weeks. Experiment with that thought a bit. Picture an actual realistic future and think, okay, well, down the line, like let's just say working at the pub, if I don't do the extra mile and I don't get those extra serviettes for him, is it going to matter in 5 years? No, it's not. Okay, and obviously you want to work to be the absolute best you can be, and I encourage you to be a high performer in everything. But perfection is not possible. I think that pursuit of perfection is definitely possible, but it's definitely something you can try. It's definitely something you can believe in. But understand that perfection is not possible. So with this rational step or this rational measure, ask yourself, will it really matter in 5 years? In most cases, it probably won't. I would go out on a limb here and say 99% of the time, this pessimism is irrational. It only serves to clutter the mind. So we move on to the next step. Number 3, action. What action can we execute here? What's going to help us get past this thought or kind of nip it in the bud before it becomes something even bigger? The first one I'd even think of is to ask a friend. Everyone is an expert in something. Everyone has experience. We need to talk to each other way more. We need to connect with each other way more, because you could be thinking something and someone else is thinking the exact same thing. Like I was at footy training. It's only a couple months back, but I was wondering about whether I wanted to go down to like a footy trip, because like it's a great club, great people, but it's just my social. I get anxious. I get pretty anxious socially, and I don't really know a lot of the boys. And I had a conversation with another guy in the club, and he's feeling the exact same thing I'm thinking. And he had his own advice as to kind of how to navigate the situation. Now, I wouldn't have found a resolve, because I would have been stuck in my own head if I just kind of accepted the pessimistic thought as a normal thought, or as a not even a valid thought. How am I trying to put this? If I accepted that pessimistic thought as reality, is what I was trying to say, then I wouldn't have been able to find any resolve. But I chose some sort of action. I went and talked to, or I even just brought it up in conversation, and I realized he had the exact same thought process as me, and he had his own advice for how to navigate the situation. Because you'd be surprised to know how many people are thinking the exact same thing you are, and you never know till you ask. You're not crazy if they don't think the exact same thing. You guys are just different people from different environments, and you're in a separate reality. You're a completely separate reality, and you can't feel bad that you don't think the exact same thing that they're thinking. You're individual. You're meant to be an individual, and that's a beautiful thing about you. Not only will a action help you understand that you aren't alone, when you talk to a friend, but it lends you someone with a mutual goal. It gives you someone who has the same goal as you, and then, 2 heads are better than one. That's the old saying. And there's all sorts of, actions that you could look towards here. There's a lot of self-care things that can really help, not get rid of the pessimistic thought, but it can kind of just de-weaponize it. Like meditation and breathing techniques, I think is an amazing practice to kind of de-weaponize that pessimism. There's all sorts of actions that you can pursue here, but just think, what is a logical action what is a logical solution to this problem that I have? The more it stays inside, the more it stirs and it festers. But this number 3, the action point, is the most important part, because if you don't do anything, it's going to sit there and just have its effect on you. And you're going to start to believe that pessimistic thought about yourself, about other people. You're going to think people are thinking things that they're not actually thinking. And you're going to feel like everyone's your enemy, and also your mind. You don't know who to trust at the end of the day. So I guess with the action, the first thing I recommend is to talk to a friend about it. Talk to me. I'm happy to talk about anything. I don't have all the answers, but I'm happy to talk about anything. Really. Like, I'm a friend for all of you if you ever need. So yeah, that's my little piece of advice on deconstructing pessimism. Now, like, it might be difficult to enact this process every single time a pessimistic thought pops into your head, but as long as you understand that most of these thoughts are irrational, that's a great step towards healthy thinking. You can de-weaponize the pessimistic thoughts and weaponize the optimistic ones. But understand that you're in a state of flow. You're going up and down in the ocean, waves crashing. Sometimes you're on top of the wave, sometimes you're getting crashed, you're getting dumped by the wave. Sometimes you're not in a state for positive manifestation or positive thinking. That's okay. When you rise back up to the surface, then you'll be in a state. You'll be in a state where you can think positively. So yeah, I guess to recap, when it comes to deconstructing pessimism, think of pessimism like some characters from Inside Out. You got sadness and you got fear on your shoulder, telling you and anticipating the absolute worst outcome. The 3 steps that I would recommend is, let's get to the source. 1, let's get to the source. Why has it come about? What events led to it? Number 2, is it rational? Let's rationalize. Let's do a rational measure of the actual thought itself. Does it actually mean anything? Does it actually amount to anything? And then number 3, what action can you execute here? As you continue to, I guess, deconstruct the pessimism and realize that you are more powerful than those thoughts, man, that's prior proof. That's proof. That's just like adding a building block to you. You're just building yourself even bigger and stronger, but you're also breaking yourself down at the same time. It's an amazing thing. So yeah, I hope you have a good day. I hope this was helpful. Please share it around to anyone who you think it might be helpful to. And yeah, share your thoughts as well. I'm happy to talk about anything that people want to share as well. Whether you jump on for an interview or whether you send me a topic and send me your research on it, or I'll do some research on it as well, or I'll give my opinion. Yeah, hope you have a beautiful rest of the day, or if it's the night, hope you have a perfect sleep, and let's just have a good day.